When we fail to engage on social media, we are failing to spread the gospel message.
Welcome to Created Creative. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Ruth.
And it's week 1 of Artist Way.
Woohoo! Have you been doing your pages yet?
I'm not doing the morning pages.
At all?
I'm not declaring it for the whole 12 weeks. The morning is non-functional for me. It is a wonder we stay alive.
So could they be any time of the day pages, maybe? Or just...
Maybe. But I do take her point that if I do it at night, they're reflecting on the day instead of setting up the day.
Yeah, but maybe that's fine if it's that this time. You know, like you're raising a toddler.
And my whole life is an artist date. I'm wandering into places constantly.
Yeah, I want to be more like that. I never do. And what did I do the other day? Oh, the other day was driving home and I just thought of all of these side roads that I've driven by for years and I don't know where they go. And so then that day I did go down and I was like, now I know where this one goes. And,
Okay, so you did one part of an artist date, and I actually did do one day of morning pages. So
oh, good. Look
we'll
at
get
us.
there.
We started.
I'll say somebody asked me if I'm going through this with a group.
Uh-huh.
So if anyone's listening in real time and wants to do this, let me know.
Right.
We can meet for 12 weeks. I'll just convene. So, not much of a cost to it. $10 a week or something.
Yeah.
And then whoever joins it can come to our Patreon meeting.
Yes,
As
which
a part
is
of it,
coming up very soon on the 26th.
Thursday, June 26th. So there's 3 ways to be a part of this with us this summer. Do it on your own if you're a really focused person or as amazing as Ruth and can get through it sort of on your own. Just listen to the podcast, follow along, stay on our schedule. A second level would be join the Patreon at either the $10 or $20 level. We will discuss it a little at our monthly gatherings and also be doing creative work together. Or a third level is join the little group I'm putting together this week.
Yay!
So we will just meet once a week, very low key. But if you need that level of accountability, which I do, so everyone join, I need you.
Yeah, and I would think that would be the best way to get the most out of the experience, to be touching base so consistently.
And when I've done it in the past, that's what I've had.
Yeah.
So thank you to the people who asked me whether I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I will. Thank you.
And when our guest last week was talking about the Artist Way, hers was a consistent group, right?
Yes.
I think if I was doing the Artist Way again for the first time, that's what I would totally recommend. Or if you've usually done it by yourself in the past, then try with a group.
So everyone join the group. But now, because we're going.
Now, exactly. We're on our way. We've done Artist Date.
$10 a week. Go on vacation, miss a week, whatever. Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yes.
I am looking at the discussion questions. Chapter 1 had, what are your 5 unlived lives?
I need to look. Yeah. If you had 5 other lives to lead, what would you do in each of them? Oh, I see. Tell me your 5 unlived lives.
I feel like I have a lot of unlived lives in that I've come close to something and didn't go all in. Like, I'm a professional actor. I do very high level things, but not Broadway or a sitcom. Sitcom is really an unlived life. I've wanted that since I would, as a child, practice what would be that little snippet, on 80s sitcoms where there's like 3 seconds and they turn around and they and then the actors say this on the screen.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
They don't do 3-camera sitcoms anymore. It's not a thing. So that genre does not exist. Thank you, Big Bang Theory. They were the last ones holding on to it.
Oh.
What's one of yours?
I think definitely one. And I have written things, but I've always aspired to, if I pictured the idyllic year's life, like if you're just sitting and sipping your tea and looking out over the ocean and writing every day.
And like, what is the funding? You're writing so much that you're making the money.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And I'm being interviewed on the Today Show for my fabulous book. Like, I enjoy all the things that I do, but I think I like the idea of writing. I think maybe more than I even like writing. That might be one that I probably thought about when I was growing up.
So you were picturing being by the sea writing, and I'm picturing my 3-second intro on my sitcom.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and I did with my best friend growing up, had a plan that we were going to live on the beach and we were going to be DJs at a radio station and we would play only the music we liked.
Ann Oster, where are you? We were in late elementary school together, and we were going to open a brain store because we thought some people might want to buy a new brain.
Yeah, I love that.
We had no plan for surgeries.
Yeah, a brain store.
We're just going to sell brain.
Excellent. Yeah.
What's the segue into Paul Drees?
I don't know what the segue is, but
I wonder what the unlived life of Paul Drees is.
I wonder what the unlived life of Paul Drees is as well.
Because maybe it's like a late night talk show host. I mean, he's doing like little skits, like an SNL skit all the time,
Yeah.
but on TikTok for 2 million people.
Yeah, he would be good on The Daily Show. He has a great following as he is, and we were lucky to have him come and talk to us on our podcast.
The issues that all of social media is talking about and putting a Lutheran theological spin on it.
Yeah, I love what he's doing, and I think our listeners are going to really enjoy this episode. Here's Paul. And this is Dawn.
I'm late. I'm sorry. Hi.
1 minute late is not late in my book.
Right.
Great.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. I'm always organizing a toddler. Ruth can tell you she always has one more thing she needs the moment we start.
Dawn has a 2-year-old daughter.
That will keep you busy.
Paul, you were saying that you're planting some prairie grasses?
So I don't really like lawns. I'm going to try not to go down too many rabbit holes. There's a lot of things I feel passionate about.
Okay. You
But-
don't like lawns. Give us a hot take right out of the gate.
Oh, I think lawns lead to the downfall of American culture.
I think air conditioning is part of it too, but you go first.
Oh, definitely air conditioning is part of it, as somebody is mowing the parsonage lawn right now. But yeah, I think the way that we view lawns as just total effective control over nature rather than having anything that's actually living in our property, we view it as like sort of like a dominion over rather than a co-creation with. And in theory, these are supposed to be spaces where we can interact, right? We could see our neighbors and we can let our toddlers play around and that kind of stuff. But in practice, they become like dead zones where nothing is growing, nobody is meeting, there's no ecological impact. We're not being good stewards of the land as God commands us. So I'll try not to go on too many rants. But
I think we're in a similar framework. I live in New York City and we don't have a lawn. And part of the draw for me is not having a car, not having our own private yard. And thus, she only plays in public playgrounds. And when I go to other states and play in public playgrounds, the kids do not play together, but here they do.
Yeah.
They have to. There is no other thing.
totally, we've been sold this lie.
Yeah, we've been sold a lie about owning the space.
Yes.
Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, glad to be here.
Yes. It's funny, though, because I have been thinking about this a lot as well. I've been a homeowner just 3 years, and it has this lawn that because all my neighbors keep theirs just so, then I feel this stress to keep mine. But a lot of times I'm like, what is the point? What is the point of all of this?
So you're turning your it's a parsonage you're turning
It's
over
a parsonage,
the land?
so I'm turning part of the parsonage lawn into native grasses, staking down black plastic for 3 months of the summer. So I made sure to get permission first before doing that.
Someone is going to have an opinion about that from the property committee.
Yep. So I was just staking it out and just giving people an idea of this is the area that it would be. And then we have a great place that's over by Winona near us that we could get some native grasses from.
And do you garden some of it too? No, that's not okay.
And just want it to grow.
I admire the gardeners, but I must admit it's not a skill set that I carry with me. But I just despise lawns.
Just
have it be wild, have it be a garden, just not a lawn.
Yeah, we're backed up into a nature preserve. Then you just have an acre and a half of just dead, ecologically monoculture, like just stuff that doesn't do anything for any creatures or doesn't improve the environment at all. We don't have kids, my wife and I. I don't know.
Does this relate to your not liking cars?
Yes.
For me, it does. So tell me
I hate
how
cars.
they overlap.
Yeah. There was a cartoon that I saw one time. Maybe I should say a meme I saw on Facebook. I don't know. But all of the streets effectively are these giant chasms that people cannot cross because it is not safe. I have neighbors on all sides of me, but I know if I see them out there, I have to risk my own life in order to cross the street. There might be a car flying by that doesn't see me. And so we can't interact in the middle of the street like people used to because that's a death zone. And especially if you have kids, you can't let them outside unless they're supervised.
Or there's a
So
fence around
yeah,
your
or there's a
yard.
fence. Like we don't have any excuses to interact with each other, which is why I think in New York City you see a lot more of that where people have to interact with each other. And in small town America where I am, you just go from your garage to your work and then back to your garage and back to your house.
Very controlled environment of who you interact with.
Yeah, and then we don't use our bodies at all.
I notice that when I'm in small towns. The life expectancy here is quite a bit longer because there's no choice but to walk every day.
Yeah, this is something that we've done as humanity, tens of thousands, depending on how you can trace back humanity. But we're meant to move our bodies, and we live in a world in which movement of bodies is minimized.
Great. So tell us why you're really here.
Yes, we usually start by asking our guests to introduce themselves.
I'm Paul Drees. I am serving as a Lutheran pastor within the ELCA. This will be my 5th year of being ordained as a pastor, which has been really exciting. My background was in social work before I started up at Luther Seminary over in St. Paul, and been in a few different calls. I've really enjoyed it. In my first call, I realized that I couldn't say all the things that I wanted to say publicly, and TikTok became an outlet for me where I was able to preach effectively what I thought God wanted us to say into the world. And it's taken off since then. It's been really exciting.
And TikTok is the reason that we found you, or Reels. We started seeing that you're doing there.
All the work led to the goal of being on this podcast.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have reached the mountaintop.
The
you have
pinnacle.
arrived. Could you tell our listeners, how many followers do you have?
Yeah, so on TikTok, it's 280,000.
Okay.
On Instagram, it's around 240,000 or so.
And for those who are not active on social media, some of your individual reels are getting
Millions and
nearly
millions.
2 million views.
Yeah, most
Just so
popular
people
one.
understand, it gets shared beyond who's following you.
It's widely shared. I've got 2 out of the 5 folks from Queer Eye that have endorsed my content.
Nice.
So I had
Yeah.
JVN and then Karamo both have reposted my stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm slowly working
Wow.
on getting all the other 3.
Yes, but we're so thrilled that you're with us today, and I'm really excited to ask you some more questions about the beginning of this ministry. And I was telling Paul before you got here, Dawn, that I did a deep dive into all of his TikToks before
Nice.
we got here, so I feel like I know him. But I wanted to see how far back they went, and so tell us what year you started doing the TikToks.
I think it was November 2021. And my first video, if anybody, like a few hundred people have scrolled back that far, but it's been a really fun journey to see, because I grew up with this idea that following Christ is radical and that it should transform the world around us and should transform the way that we see the world. And so I just assumed that was going to be the case. But I had a ton of friends going to college, ton of friends in high school for whom Christianity was a profoundly negative experience, where Christianity is a set of laws that you have to follow, and Jesus will kill you if you do not follow those.
Yeah. The stakes
Was-
are high.
Yeah, not only kill you, like torture you permanently with like scalding irons and like awful things for the remainder of your life. Yeah.
You know, that's not what people want.
And it just serves to galvanize power structures, right? It allows people who are on top of the system to benefit. They don't ever ask questions about why those systems exist in the way they do. Sorry, I forgot your initial question.
No, okay.
I think I went off.
What's up with TikTok is the question. So.
Oh, yeah. It's a way to reach people.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily started as, I'm going to do youth evangelism, moreover as a way where I could express what I felt like needed to be said. Like the words that I was saying on TikTok felt like they were burning a hole inside me. And I could either choose to leave ministry entirely, or I could say them in some capacity.
So was it pretty quickly that they started gaining traction, your videos?
Yeah, my first viral video was about candles and was editing in DaVinci Resolve and thought I would pitch shift up my voice. And so but then I moved it up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5, up 6, up 7. And if you know anything about music, that's going to turn out to be a god awful.
Yeah.
I put that all together thinking, this is going to be great. It's going to sound like a choir of angels. I'm trying to like really get people involved, and it sounded awful, like horrendous. And
Okay.
so my first video is just me laughing. Yeah. And then my second one was about candles, and hey, here are the oil candles. Like a lot of churches will use these oil candles instead of traditional candles, which I think a lot of people had seen those candles and had no idea how they actually functioned.
Yeah. Did you feel like over time you started sharing more of your views and opinions? And then I'm interested with the church you were at. Did they know about your TikTok? And if so, what was the reception?
They figured it out.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
plan did not work, unfortunately, where I would have these 2 spheres.
Yeah.
So I started in October of 2019 at this particular church, and this is a very tumultuous time. We have a pandemic happening. We have the end of Trump's presidency. We have George Floyd being murdered in Minneapolis, and all of this is coming to a head as I am starting in this small southwestern Minnesotan town of Granite Falls, and realized after maybe a year of preaching, because at this point we were remote preaching, right? And so you don't get the same reaction. People don't feel as comfortable reaching out to me, realizing I've got to radically change the way that I'm preaching this message, because I'm getting feedback from the senior pastor. I'm getting feedback from council that they don't want to hear this. And I was not doing it, I would say, in the best way either.
Okay.
You make a lot of mistakes in your first call. So it became an outlet for me pretty early on. Honestly, I did those kind of 2 silly videos that I think they're both at 1.8 million right now, which feels strange. But then started talking a little bit about toxic masculinity and starting to talk about racism and kind of the abortion states' rights attitudes that folks have. So starting to talk about a lot of these issues that were happening at the time, about the way the pandemic is treated, how we're withholding pandemic aid from our siblings in Christ. It's just me felt like one of the most unchristian things Trump did in his presidency during that particular presidency. Now we've got all sorts of things to work with.
Now there's a lot of runner-ups.
Ah! Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah. And so they found out pretty quickly and it was hard.
Yeah, they found out after a few of those videos did well, and after a few of the videos where I made maybe more of a political, they would use the term political. I would say that it's just when you're talking about the world, people accuse you of being political.
Yes.
I wasn't being partisan. I wasn't endorsing any candidates or endorsing any sort of party. I was just saying this is a problem we need to talk about more.
Yeah.
So they found out about that. The senior pastor and then the head of council at that time really wanted me to shut it down. They had tried to make the argument that they owned everything they created on that platform because I did it while wearing a collar. They couldn't record in the church anymore. And so I stopped recording in the church. We tried a process where they would approve of them ahead of time, but it's really hard to explain TikTok humor to somebody who's a boomer.
You were
Right.
doing like some of
Yeah.
the trends.
Yeah. Like I got some anonymous letter from somebody and I responded using the ludicrous lyric, I'm never going nowhere, so don't try me, right? Not even any profanity, but just
Yeah,
I got
it is what-
complaints. Yeah, about using a rapper in one of my videos.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
rapper.
Oh,
There's a lot of white supremacy in Granite Falls.
yeah.
A lot of great
Wow.
people there too, like truly, but it's the Native community there that is still profoundly ignored by the white folks in Granite Falls that don't really have an understanding of the pain that's happening locally in their community. So that is poking at a lot of sore spots. Honestly, not in a very diplomatic way either. Now I think like, oh, there's a better way I could have done all of this.
But it was
So-
a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I had a senior pastor who was really, if I'm to be as charitable as possible, did not know what to do with this. I don't know if he was threatened by it or anything like that, but he certainly said some pretty uncharitable things towards me. And then it comes to a head and they tried to actually remove me from call in that particular, as my wife and I were getting married in that congregation.
Oh my gosh. It just must have been so painful on so many levels. But they would try to approve each video, censor your creativity in that way. And this thing that was an outlet for you and that you needed. And then they're trying to control it. And yeah.
If it was like flopping and there wasn't anybody paying attention to the videos, I would get that a little bit more. But as it stood, there's people who were hungry for that kind of message.
1.8 million.
Yeah, the ELCA has a massive problem with evangelism, even though we have it in the name.
My last little viral moment was when Tim Walz rose to national prominence. And I made a little meme that was like, if you like his hometown, folksy, progressive dad vibe, you can go to any Lutheran, Methodist, Presbyterian church in your town and find someone like that. And millions of people. And I was like, you did not make this perfectly, but I don't see the ELCA. Like, they should have been on every morning talk show that week. Every single one. Every single one.
He was a member at Pilgrim Lutheran in
exactly.
St. Paul, a congregation that I used to worship at.
Oh, so you
That
know
is-
Jen Rome and all that.
Yeah, I was the pastor before, Pastor Carol Topper, who wrote some of the best liturgy I've ever read in my life. But we miss so many opportunities because we operate with this kind of corporate structure that's very slow moving, very afraid of the negative things that could happen.
It's risk averse.
I just have to remind us, like, what happened to the disciples? How many of the 12 disciples were killed for speaking the truth of Jesus? It's 11 out of 12.
It's
Those
dangerous.
aren't good odds.
Right.
How many of us have been killed for preaching the gospel? No, I'm not saying we need to be martyrs.
Right.
Those are the people that we're supposed to be following. Christianity isn't supposed to be about survival.
Or safety.
Yeah, like Jesus was executed on a cross by the state.
So then after you left Granite Falls, did you do campus ministry?
Yeah, so my wife was in grad school at the time, and so we didn't want to try and move from the house that we were at in Granite Falls. So we did a wonderful interim at Danebo Lutheran, which is down in Tyler, Minnesota, a small Danish congregation. They're amazing. I love them so much. One of the most beautiful churches that I've ever been inside, very much like the inside of a ship. So I did that in between for a year, and then I took this interim campus pastor position in La Crosse and moved to the La Crosse area. And then after that interim, then I was able to find a settled call. So it was a little bit of bobbing and weaving.
So does this
Going
call support your social media presence in your role as a public theologian?
I would say they do. I was pretty transparent when I came in basically saying you don't get any say to what I say online, that you don't get to supervise any of it. Not saying that their feedback wasn't important, but there's really important work that is happening in these social media spaces. The ELCA has no idea how to work with any of it. It just relies on people like myself and a lot of other creators who are going out and doing this kind of work, trying to reach people, trying to explain that not every form of Christianity is about hate and legalism or power gathering.
And people truly have no idea. Like they're not running across it until they meet you, because the footprint is so small compared to other forms of Christianity in our media empire.
Yeah, and it's partially because, again, I don't mean any harm against folks at Churchwide. I think they're doing a really hard job, but we're trying not to offend people. And that's kind of like the number one thing we're trying to do as a Lutheran church, rather than preaching the gospel is the first thing that we're trying to do. And they're under a lot more pressure than I am, to be clear. I get to say whatever I want.
I'm curious. I saw that you had gone to the National Youth Gathering. When you were there, were you recognized a lot?
Yeah, it wasn't like every person recognized me, but when we were at the large gatherings, every once in a while folks would pull me aside, and usually it was a few times a day, which is a little strange. Not something I expected to get into in my 30s. Yeah.
It is powerful. I mean, like, do you know John Stevens, the dollar store children's sermon guy?
I've probably run across him before.
Yeah. Anyway, he's another one who ministry that he does with sharing children's messages. He gets recognized at the National Youth Gathering. And I don't know, it's just so important, this online ministry that people are doing, and it reaches people in ways that we're still learning how to understand how effective it is.
Oh, totally. One of the primary issues, I think, with the ELCA is we've done a terrible job of uplifting voices within the ELCA. We live in a celebrity culture, right? And we maybe have Nadia Bolz-Weber, now Tim Walz, as our famous Lutherans.
Right. People don't know. And we don't want to show off, right? It's embedded in the shared culture to some degree.
Lutheran pietism has done much more harm than good, in my opinion.
But it's a celebrity culture, and other types of Christianity are much better. You're right.
Yeah, like the evangelical circles you see people's faces on posters in these revival events. And there's Christian organizations on the right that are explicit about, we are trying to spread this message as much as possible. So they fund people. We don't do that. And I know they have a lot going on. I'm not trying to just poo-poo Churchwide. When I say Churchwide, I should say, because I know not all of your audience is Lutherans, but when I say Churchwide, I am talking about the organizational body of the ELCA. So like the nationwide office of the ELCA based in Chicago. We call them Churchwide.
Yeah. And so you are a person who gets a lot of emails, I'm sure. How do you handle all of the volume coming at you of people wanting to respond and talk to you?
Yeah, it's hard because I will often do a little internal thing of like, does it feel like this, hopping on this podcast, talking to this author or whatever, does this feel like it will have some sort of impact? And I will usually listen to an episode or two of somebody's. So I listened to the episode with Angela Denker, which was amazing. I loved that episode. She's fantastic.
She's a voice in the culture.
She is, yes. Yeah. But there's a perfect example of somebody who's an amazing voice within the ELCA. We don't highlight her at all.
No, and she had trouble getting a call. She says it on the podcast. This is not a secret.
Yeah.
Didn't want to support a public theologian.
Yeah, which like there's no way that we have a future if we view evangelism as something that never happens. But y'all run a good ship over here. I checked y'all out and I was pretty impressed. And
Thank you.
There is a lot of inbound, less so in my inbox than in Instagram. And I don't even check TikTok messages, unfortunately. I probably have thousands of unread TikTok messages. It's sad because I wish I could, but like I'm 3/4 time at my call here. So I have to do all of this work that I do on social media with basically like 1/4 of my time. And so I don't really have time to do much beyond write my scripts, put out my videos, occasionally talk to folks. I wish I had capacity. Man, my dream would be if I could just have 2 seminary students that were paid for by the ELCA where I could just say, hey, when I have a video blow up like I recently did on Instagram, I get like 50 to 100 messages a day. And some of them are just like, hey, I like this. Some of them are like, oh, you suck, you're going to hell. But there's a good portion of them that are like, hey, I would love to find an ELCA church in Phoenix. Hey, I'm considering seminary. What is that process like? Hey, I want to learn how to pray, but I don't have any progressive safe spaces near me. Walk me through that process, which is all important work, but I have very little capacity to do that. Yeah. It's like we have a huge evangelism opportunity, but it's just...
I went to grant to fund this.
You need an intern.
An intern.
You totally need an intern.
Yeah, I did hire my friend Sarah as a sort of manager, officer role, trying to do some live events, which is really exciting. I would love to have 2 or 3 people that would just go through my Instagram inbox and just would be able to respond to people because they're really good questions that folks are asking. if each question takes me 3 to 5 minutes,
There's no way. There's no way.
that's my whole day.
Yeah.
So maybe this segues, but what if there's somebody who's really interested in what you're doing and they're wondering about the question if they should start a social media channel? What would you say to them?
Yeah, people ask me all the time, should I create a social media channel? And I will often tell them, you have to love video editing or have money to hire somebody to edit your videos. But you have to love the process of video editing if you want to get into this kind of work. You have to love the creative process of sitting down and writing out videos. You have to be really okay with looking at your face and your voice for hours at a time. You have to have a certain amount of ego to do this kind of stuff.
Because most of it is the editing. Like the time you put in, most of it's the editing.
Yeah. Edit it and trying to get the take perfect. I'm releasing a video at 3:45 today about somebody who thought my image of Frederick Douglass. I have an image of Frederick Douglass in my office that somebody thought was an image of Black Jesus. And so they were trying to correct me on that. Like Jesus wasn't black. And I get to explain, well, Frederick Douglass was.
We know him.
Yeah, he's Frederick. That's not Jesus. That's Frederick Douglass. But I have to do this speech, and it's like a 30-second speech. And I think I spent at least like 7 minutes just trying to get this speech perfect. So you have to love the craft, really. And you also have to be decent at acting. You have to have a thick skin. That's the big thing. There's a lot more criticism that women creators get on platforms than I.
Which is why I don't do TikTok anymore. I did a daily TikTok for 15 months, but it was like I couldn't take the cruelty anymore.
Yeah, brutal.
It's pretty intense. Yeah.
And we see, just with our human nature, right? We see the negative stuff, and that really outweighs the positive stuff, unfortunately.
Also, when I like something, maybe I'll just hit the like, but I'm not writing them a note. It's the angry people who write the note.
Oh, I'm acutely aware of that.
Yeah, I'm sure you know that. I'm just, for our listeners who maybe aren't in TikTok.
Yeah.
Creatively, how is the process for you of creating these videos? Do you set aside a certain time? How do they come about?
I think creativity is something that has to come to me in the moment, but I do set aside a specific time that I will write videos. And so I'll text myself something on my phone. And right now I have 7 unread messages to myself of little video ideas of, hey, let's talk about student debt. This is something that a lot of people cared about. On TikTok Live, a lot of people commented on my most recent video that we actually have debt forgiveness in the Bible. That is something that we have in the Hebrew Bible, but we ignore as a modern Christian church for reasons unknown. Little text messages trying to explain, hey, here's the gem of the video. Here's the premise of the video. And then I'll go back and write something out. But it's hard to force creativity, for me at least. Like, it's more like building a bond with a wild animal than going out and milking a cow, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
It's got to trust me, and I've got to trust it. I can't beat creativity out of myself. Or when I can, the end product is just not very funny or good.
Right.
It comes across somehow. I don't know how. I know some people have like a very regimented schedule. They have to do it always this time, and they write for this specific time. And I do have my writing schedule, but the little ideas for videos, I just have to message myself as soon as they come on.
And enough of it that you can get that kernel back.
Yeah, like right now I've got on my phone. I've got the one on student debt. I've got a few other ones where I just think this is something that we need to talk about because there's something here that needs to be explained. And I feel like I am in a decent position where I could try and provide a different perspective than what I'm hearing in the common parlance.
Who are some of your favorite creative people?
Thank you for asking. I will first give a plug for my mom.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, Paul Drees. So I don't know if you've subscribed to Living Lutheran in the past.
Yeah.
If you have, then you've seen some of her artwork of Living I like to brag about. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
She's by far my favorite Christian visual artist, and it's been really cool to see her work. I love the care for craft that she has. When it goes for like social media creators, I really like Dan McClellan. I think he's a fantastic voice. We disagree theologically on a few things, but he speaks to these complicated religious issues from an academic lens and doing something that's really important. There's another pastor, Rev Rachel, whose username is Nerdy Priest. One of the people that I listen to all of her videos because she's very smart and very acute. Another, Isabella Seglovich. I should ask Isabella how she says her last name. The decline of ornament is at least partially caused by white supremacy. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yes. So as we saw the rise of fascism in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and even to today, one of the things that we notice is that any sort of folk culture has to be minimized as a result. You can't have any artisan class under a fascist regime because the artisan class has independence. They can create art that is resistant.
And change people's hearts and minds.
Yeah, that's why you don't see like beautiful art being inspired by the Trump regime. It's AI generated crap. It's because they're trying to undermine like the artisan class. And like we saw this in Germany during the rise of the Nazi regime. We see this when we have an organization that is trying to hold on to power. They cut out the legs of everybody that could resist them. And the artisan class throughout history was one of those groups.
Wow.
Then
And
you
as we
lose
get-
a generation the longer it goes on. No one
Yes.
remembers how to do the thing.
Yeah, so like things that used to be commonplace, right? Like wood carving used to be something that all of our ancestors,
Yeah.
I don't know if they all were excellent at it, but they had some pretty good understanding of it because so much stuff was made out of wood. So you just carve little ornamentation into things. We don't have any knowledge how to do that anymore because it's not advantageous. Also, under capitalism, when everything is mass produced, that's
Yeah.
inefficient. Culture is, again, why like whiteness gets all glommed together as this one thing.
Yeah.
And we get little pieces of other traditions. None of the
Yeah.
beauty, I would say.
You are a woodworker, aren't you?
I try to.
Bringing it back.
Trying to bring it back.
What other kinds of things do you like to make?
I am very much a functional woodworker at this point in my woodworking journey. I made a stand for all of our liquor.
Oh,
That's-
Great. Function.
My wife and I got really into cocktails over the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so we have 35 bottles and we maybe drink like a cocktail or two a month. It's not like we're pounding them back every night. But
Right.
got this beautiful oak slab or the silver maple slab that I was able to make something out of and make a stand out of. When I look around here, I made that desk. I made my stand for all of my stoles. There's some stuff upstairs, just small functional stuff where I'm sure there's someone that makes a stole stand somewhere, but it'd be way easier if I just make it myself.
If you have the skill,
And you
and
figure
it's
it
fun.
out. It is fun. It's
Similar to the social media. You have to love it enough to figure it out.
yeah, it's way cheaper to just buy something.
Back to capitalism.
Yeah, and then you don't get any sense of satisfaction from it, right? Like I'm not a creator.
Yeah. So, what has been one of your favorite creative experiences?
This is not related to social media, and again, just me
Great.
plugging my mom again.
Great.
My mom and I did this piece. I do some calligraphy just because I'm really interested in the history of medieval monasticism. Just as an outbranching of that, I got really into calligraphy. I went with my mom to a place called the Grunwald Guild out in Washington State and did an independent study on medieval calligraphy and those kind of writings. And got to do a project where I think it was Genesis 1. I'm forgetting the exact verse, but it was a verse from Genesis that I did in a circle, and my mom was really interested in mandalas at the time. So I did this text on the outside on this beautiful recycled t-shirt paper that my mom was able to get. Then on the inside, she did this cornucopia of all of these plants coming together, which I love that. Cool.
Yeah.
The two other things, when I have a video that does really well, especially a video where I'm like really proud of it. I've done some videos where I like try and tear down people, or not tear down, but just say J.D. Vance was wrong for speaking about Christianity this way. I don't feel great about.
Uh-huh.
But when I have a video like my Pride video that I just recently posted that's doing really well, that makes me feel proud because I'm trying to explain that the message of Christ is love. We as Christians don't have to go around bopping people over the head all day long. That's not what we're called to do as Christians. So those are moments where you see comments that people write and it feels very real, which is it's very humbling to be a part of.
Just so nice to have your voice out there because, like we've said, so much of the loudest Christian voices tend to be the awful ones. And so it's nice to have your voice out there, and just so glad to see the reception that you've had, the lots of views, and that's
Yeah.
very cool.
And we need way more people doing this work.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's
Go ahead.
fully plausible. Every time you put out a video, there are people who never knew that there were progressive, love-based Christians. Like anytime that video reaches a new person, I feel like it's
Yes.
quite likely that person has never known
Yeah.
God is love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Such a little voice in the larger culture. Like people have stopped saying evangelical Christian and just say Christian, as though that's the whole. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but
No, keep going.
we so need your voice times 10 and 40 other people.
And especially voices that aren't like white, straight men.
Right. Yeah. But use your privilege and do what you can, right?
Totally.
You can't
Yep.
change who you are, so use the privilege.
Exactly. And also, like, there's such wisdom from different communities within the ELCA that gets frankly ignored because we don't have the central structure to lift up these voices.
And they don't have the infrastructure to spend a quarter of their time on this.
Yeah. We've tried to do some stuff in the past and it just hasn't worked out because, again, we don't have the infrastructure in place to really dedicate resources to this kind of public
Mhm.
evangelism.
Does
Yeah.
anyone other than straight up evangelical churches, do the Presbyterians, do the Episcopalians? Is there a framework?
Yeah, mainline churches don't do a great job at it. And I think it's partially because they are so in their ways. And I don't mean that entirely as a negative thing.
They're dependable.
Yeah, they're dependable. The problem is, I think, with the mainline is that we have so many institutions that we have to maintain. So if you have a Lutheran and they have a ton of money that they want to put towards Lutheran causes, they will put it towards maybe LSS, which is a fantastic organization, or they'll put it towards Luther Seminary, pretty good organization.
Can we please define LSS for our listeners?
Ah, yes, thank you. Lutheran Social Services recently got attacked.
Called a crime syndicate
Yes.
by Elon
Which was
Musk.
like, again, like we have a huge opportunity. We have been thrust into the public sphere.
And no one said a word.
Yeah, I heard some stuff from some bishops, but social media is where stuff is happening right now,
Mhm.
right? And when we fail to engage on social media, we are failing to spread the gospel message.
There's your soundbite. That's it.
Mhm.
But yeah, we have this amazing theology and we hide it under a bushel basket. We don't want to offend people. And within conservative spaces, you have like mega donors who want to put forward an idea that keeps things going in the way that they are, right? Or puts forward this idea of religious conservatism. And we don't really have the same donor base within the progressive church.
But we do have people with money.
Yeah, definitely. Even though we have people with profound amounts of money,
They're not being cultivated.
they're not being cultivated. We're not connecting them because our view of evangelism is, I don't know what the ELCA's view of evangelism is. It's something that past generations did and we don't have to bother with anymore.
Yeah, or in order to be respectful of people, don't bring it up at all. I feel like there's some of that.
Yes.
Which I think can be helpful. We don't want to be like on street corners telling people that they're going to go. We probably wouldn't be saying they're going to hell, but we could say there's really no motivation because so many people are universalists.
Right.
You're saved
But
no matter
yeah, no
Yeah,
matter what.
God loves you no matter what.
But we have to say it publicly as much as we can.
Mm.
Again, I'll just put this out there. If there's any donors who would like to fund this, I would love to have a week where we just invite 10, 15, 20 creators and I'd give them everything that I know, which isn't much. So it won't take up that long.
But then they spend time creating.
Yeah. And we spend time creating together and I can give them all these little tricks of here's where you put your light. Here's where you put your secondary light. Like I have my camera on a stick that is mounted to a 1x4 that
Yeah.
is behind my desk. Like
Yeah.
all of these little technical things that trip people up. And here's how you construct a cook. Like we need dozens of people who are doing this. Me and Knothead, who's also fantastic, but again, not very well known outside of that particular platform.
I have to say, too, there's something that makes me very happy that you are in rural Wisconsin. Like when I first started seeing your TikToks, it makes me sad that I just assumed that you were in New York or something because I'm in rural Minnesota and I know that I'm a progressive Christian. So why do I assume? But anyway, makes me happy that you are putting this together in rural America.
Trying to. Yeah. It's much more effective, I think, online than like in person because online people don't encounter the same roadblocks that you see in an in-person church, right? Nothing against the churches that I'm serving right now. They're both wonderful places and the people that are living there, traditions, right? They have things that are set in place that past generations have done again and again. Whereas when I'm going on my own, there are no traditions. It's wonderful and scary, but you can move a lot faster
Yeah.
with that framework. Yeah.
As you think about the future, is there anything that Don could get you coaching on today?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is how to monetize in a way that feels faithful because most creators at my level are doing this full time.
Yep.
That they have gotten their sponsorships, right? They sell makeup, sell guns or whatever. I don't know what people
Whatever
But-
people sell.
whatever people are selling out there on TikTok.
Yeah,
But
so you
Yeah.
don't want to sell makeup or guns. We've ruled that out.
totally. So it's just figuring out like I have a Patreon that's been going well. TikTok does pay me a certain amount. That's not a very steady income, I would say. It is a few $1,000s a month, which is not nothing.
But
1 to
it's not
2.
steady.
No, you just never know when TikTok
can't
is going to
hammer it.
ban you or move your content.
Or just not be in the United States.
Yeah, an
Yeah.
option.
What are the other avenues? Have you did grants? Have you looked
Mhm.
at a workshop? Where are the tendrils?
Yeah, we're planning out some live events. So we're hoping to do a live event in Minnesota. The thing that I run into with a live event is I don't want to charge so much for tickets that people can't come. I don't know if I view that necessarily as a fundraising thing.
Mm-hmm.
As more of just a building out this kind of
Yep.
infrastructure and
Yep.
getting to meet people because people are always asking if they can come and see me. And then I say, no,
My church is not big,
I haven't said publicly where I serve yet either.
so
so
they
it's,
can't even find you.
yeah, they can find me if you look real hard. That's one of the things that I've looked at. I have a Patreon right now. and I don't plug that all that much, but I could do that. I have a Bible study that I'm doing through the Patreon. I'm open to some sort of sponsorship, but it really has to be something that fits. So many people who are using Christianity as a means to gain wealth to do that just want to use my platform as a means to be able to support myself.
Yeah, it feels like a private donor thing.
Yeah, that could be.
It seems like someone needs to take it on as the pet
Yeah.
project. So if you're going to do a live event, you don't want to charge a lot. You get a lot of people there. In entrepreneur world, you get people there at a low price and then you upsell something in the room. What would the upsell be if you went that route?
I've thought about what's the product that I can provide where this is a joyful exchange, where somebody's like giving out of a necessity to something that they'd be thrilled about. So I do have stickers. I've got my little Pride Luther Rose sticker that my mom made. Thanks, Vonda. My dad's name is Jim. He's great too.
I'm thinking something that costs like $500 to $1,000.
Oh.
But the sticker might be worth $500 because your mother is such a highly esteemed artist.
She is a highly esteemed artist. But yeah, so that's been the lower end. On the higher end, I don't know. I haven't honestly really thought about what would be the thing. I'd be happy to sell access to me where, hey, I will come to your house or we can meet for a drink or something like that. There's
the
a
live
little
event is in Minneapolis, so you could get these people presumably will live in Minnesota.
Yep. So that's in Minneapolis. I've got another one that we're planning in La Crosse and Milwaukee, and then also in Madison. So those are like the cities that we're looking at right now.
I would pay some amount of money, and a church would pay this on my behalf, I think. 3 hours of how to be a social media evangelist for $500.
I was even thinking like a video course that you could put
all
together.
of it. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea.
The church, practical, as Ruth is saying, theological, all the things, strategy, what you really need. You can't just do it as a hobby, but also building the case that the national conversation is on social media, and you seem very equipped to build that case. You'd have examples. Churches would pay for that.
Yeah.
And random people who just, who might come to see you. I don't know who the audience is.
It's a lot of different people. Yeah.
Is it also then there's a year-long dig into the Bible from a progressive point of view for $97?
Could.
And there's super duper scholarships available. We don't gatekeep the gospel, but we would like you to make a donation of this level.
So I do have a Bible study right now that is, you can sign up for free, or that's $5 a month on Patreon. And I probably don't plug that as much as I should.
I'm wanting the kid in Arkansas to have an ongoing interaction with you, whatever you can handle 20 minutes a week, like in a group. But they get fed with an interaction, not just finding a worship online.
Yeah.
And they get to ask your questions. Maybe they submit them ahead so you can fit it all into whatever your timeline. But like something where there's a thing they can do on an ongoing basis and build a relationship with a caring faith leader somewhere.
Yeah. Ruth, did you have something?
My head is still thinking about the e-course, how cool that would be, because you make it once and then you sell it over and over. I mean, everything that you teach would be great in a book, but you're so good at video already. It seems
It's
like
meta.
a natural fit.
Yeah, because then that becomes, my goal is that everything is free.
That doesn't really make a ton of money.
It doesn't make, I don't know how to make money on that.
Okay, so you're wanting it to be free, but it could be scholarshipy. Some people will pay.
And I think a video course where it's like, hey, here's everything I've learned about doing evangelism. I don't feel bad about putting that behind a paywall and maybe charging.
Because it's an
charge for that.
organization that will buy it.
Yeah, I am not preventing somebody from having a deeper
Knowing Jesus.
relationship with
Yeah.
the divine.
Yeah, but then the other things are suggested donations.
Yeah, which is like the live event. We're doing a VIP event beforehand. That is going to be ticketed.
Yep.
That's going to pay for everything. And then we have a free event afterwards. It's going to be open to the public. Everybody
Nice.
can
I
come
love
by.
that.
Yeah.
When I saw Kate Bowler, it was like that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That would be, I love paying money to the people that I care about. I don't have,
Right.
it's just, I'm sensitive towards like folks who are in college who think, man, I'd love to do this. I'd love to go to this Bible study, but I don't have an extra $5 that I can throw a month.
So it's suggested.
Yeah.
How much do you need to monetize? Like you keep saying $5 and I keep saying 1,000. What does monetizing mean? Maybe?
Yeah, for me, so I'm quarter time right now, and I'm very happy in my call, which is 3/4 time,
Yep.
and could eventually see transitioning more towards doing the social media stuff full time. Again, I love
Yeah.
the congregations that I'm serving now.
Yeah. So we're talking like a long-term plan, but maybe you would have it be a bigger and bigger part of your life. So we do need thousands.
Yeah. Yeah. I think probably the minimum for me to feel really good would be grossing like 3,500.
It's doable.
Yeah, I think so. Now that you
Especially
say
if
that.
you were like going around to synod events, doing
Yeah.
an intro workshop. and
Yeah.
then saying, I sell this, it's fine if you don't want it, but if you want me to dig in with you,
Yeah.
here's a e-course, and then I can dig in more for a very large fee.
Definitely.
And help you.
That's a great idea. This is the only reason I'm on Facebook, is I know a lot of people that have power in the ELCA are on Facebook. That's literally the only reason I'm on that platform, is to influence the higher ups within the ELCA, the bishops and whatnot, to be like, hey, let's do this work. We should sponsor somebody to do this work.
I think you teaching them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would love to see you as a presenter at Synod assemblies or fall theological convocations.
So-
What could happen in the next 2 weeks toward this?
I like the idea of sketching out an e-course, because that to me feels like something I can do that's not committing to anything immediately, because I always worry stuff's going to pop up and then I won't be able to execute in the way that I would like. But doing an e-course, I can develop that slowly over time and then release it, and then just have that available on my website when
Yep.
folks would like.
I love that.
Do you need accountability? Do you need to tell Ruth before the 4th of July that you
Sure.
done it?
Yeah,
Some
good for
people
me.
need that. I didn't know your personality.
I love projects, and I distract myself with other projects, unfortunately. So some accountability is good.
Oh, this has just been so great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
Oh, really? Thanks for tolerating my rambling.
No, it was great. So thank you.
Yes, and we will be enjoying watching your TikToks and the evolution of your ministry. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, it's been a joy. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for joining us for Created Creative.
We're so glad that you joined us, and keep working on your Artist's Way morning pages and Artist Date.
Join us at one of the 3 levels, either listening to the podcast, by joining the Patreon, or by joining the group I'm putting together for the summer.
And if you haven't yet followed us on social media, please do leave a positive review and go create something.
Go create something.